Welcome everybody. So we're going to talk about the new artifact, Razer's power battery. We'll skip equilibrium for now and jump right into the other two. So we have Razer's Rage. Damaging target lowers the cooldown of equilibrium by 10 seconds. This effect can only occur once every 5 seconds. All self-damage taken is reduced by 30%. So basically if you're using Lanier's Amulet, Book of the Black, any self-damaging abilities, your damage will be reduced by 30% of the damage taken from that. The next ability is Razer Solemnity, and healing any target lowers the cooldown of equilibrium by 10 seconds. There's also a damage buff that any target with 80% or higher health, where they'll get a damage bonus of 2.5%, and that does stack up to 4 times, so you'll get a 10% damage bonus for being above 80% with Razer Solemnity. Out of the two, Razer's Rage is the easiest to use, but Solemnity is better overall because you do get that buff in your damage. So it works if you're a target from a healer, or if you're healing yourself, you will get that buff. Now with that being said, let's jump into Equilibrium. Now Equilibrium is very interesting. So it's similar to Sinestro's Ring, where once you equip the art, you'll passively damage enemies that you're attacking. Except proccing this is a little bit more difficult because the natural cooldown is 100 seconds. Now, if you just activate Razer's Rage, where you're just consistently damaging the target, you can proc it again, but you'll only be able to proc it with a reduction of 5 seconds. So it's definitely not going to be worth it if you're only going to use one. You need to either have the healer healing you and activating Solemnity, or you need to be doing it yourself with the Blue Lantern abilities, tank roll, or throw a couple healer abilities in there, or healing abilities in there. Now with that being said, also this ability is probably one of the hardest hitting abilities in the game. When you use it in combination, Solemnity and Razer's Rage, you're able to reduce the cooldown to about 35-36 seconds. So just in the testing that I did, 391 seconds, so it's like 6.5 minutes, and I was able to proc Equilibrium 11 times. And the only move I was using was Hope Wave, and I was using Empowering Pulse for my healing, Scintillating Blast and Change, just to keep the damage going. So I was consistently proccing those two abilities because I was just damaging and I was healing myself, and the damage was ridiculously high. I mean, I was hitting I think the lowest that I have in there, I hit about 12 million was the lowest that I hit, and the highest parts that I hit was about 33 million. So varying numbers, but extremely strong. And once it procs, any enemies in the area all get damaged. And depending on the health, it's almost like Lasso, where Lasso, when they have half health or less, that is instant death. Depending on the enemies, it was instant death when I went into the instance and I was in tank roll. So and you should see from earlier clips in the video where I pulled the ads together and Equilibrium procced, and then all the ads just died. Now there was other instances where I pulled all the ads together and some ads didn't die. The little control bosses inside of the 4 rooms, they didn't die from Equilibrium, so I had to consistently attack them. They did take damage, but it wasn't enough to kill them, and actually it felt like they weren't taking the same amount of damage as the other ads. So it's a great move on ads. Also, it'd probably be a great move on boss, because if you're consistently proccing the damage, you'll get those high numbers. Substitution for Lasso, potentially. Potentially not also, because Lasso you can control when you actually use Lasso. With this move, you have no control over when you use it. You can guesstimate, you can try to make it proc after 35 seconds by consistently keeping your Rage and Solemnity up. But it may be difficult depending on how your abilities work, how your power set is set up, and what your loadout is looking like. I'm going to experiment a little bit more with trying to include empowering pulse because I don't have that in my normal loadout. Hope Wave, I do have that in there. Empowering pulse was for testing, but proccing this definitely could be beneficial. Now, would you substitute this for a supercharge by keeping this in your loadout? That's all dependent on you and what you're running and how you feel about it. I mean, you could get away with using this over a supercharge, which would free up some artifact spaces, so you wouldn't have to run scrap and why can't I think of the other one right now? EOG. It just all depends on what you want to do. I mean, overall, those would probably give you, especially EOG, would give you more damage. But if you're not an EOG monster, able to, you know, get the most use out of it, this definitely is an option for you. So it's actually a great artifact. I like it. I just wish you had more control of when you actually procced it. That would make it a little bit better. Or if proccing it was a little bit simpler, similar to Sinestro's Ring. But, you know, having to work for it doesn't make it a bad art. The damage is well worth it. And you actually get, not in damage roll, I wasn't getting great heals. The heals were pretty low from Solemnity when I was in damage roll, doing the testing at the League Hall. I think I was, if we averaged them all out, I probably averaged about 500,000 heals every time that Equilibrium procced. I mean, it's okay. It's not great. I think I have about I get about a quarter health. I think I have about 2 million or so health on my DPS, and you know, it won't keep you alive. It's not, you know, life saving or run saving to make sure that that procs. But with the healer, you'll be able to stay up above, well above that, and it'll just be a bonus. So that's my 2 cents on the art. I like it. I'm gonna figure out a way myself to try to run it more, to see how I feel about it. I'm gonna do some substitutions with a supercharge, taking one out, see how I like it in my loadout, and just play around with it. I think this is not something that's you should rush to level up, because it's going to take a lot of work. I think you should take your time and just get comfortable with it, because it definitely switches up your play style and the way you play by adding this in there, because you're going to have to drop an art. What art would you drop? I couldn't tell you. That's something you'd have to decide for yourself. Potentially people running Quizlet may drop Quizlet, but you're going to lose a little bit of damage, but you gain damage from this. So there's plenty of options, but not a rush, but definitely a hard-hitting art, and a different one. So the playstyle is pretty fun. So hopefully this was helpful. You have any questions, let me know. I'll get with you in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one. Appreciate it.